Welcome in to the Roll Tide Rewind basketball edition, my personal favorite part of the channel. I know it's Cole's too, but
Yep.
we're here today to break down some Alabama offensive film. We'll be breaking down Alabama's defensive film tomorrow, but first we'll start with offensive film today. Cole, who is fresh off a trip to Norman, Oklahoma, where Alabama got the win yesterday by 2 points in Norman. Cole, how was the game? How stressed were you, and are you ready to break down some offensive film?
Yeah, game was very fun. Had a great time. Very, very stressful, especially at certain points. The 11-0 run to end the half, especially, wasn't feeling great. But overall, I thought maybe not the best win Alabama's gotten all year, not the prettiest, but going on the road, beating an SEC team, Oklahoma got a good chance to make the tournament. So definitely not a bad loss, or definitely a pretty solid win. And even if we lost, it wouldn't have been a bad loss. So solid to see there. And yep, like you, Thomas, I love football, obviously, but basketball really is where my heart lies. So after living through the Anthony Grant and Avery Johnson years, I'm so glad that we have a really fun basketball team we can talk about. So I'm pumped to do this.
Yeah, fortunes changed when Nate Oates arrived.
Yep.
It was crazy. But we're going to start with Alabama's offense today. We're going to look at a few things. We're going to look at three-point shooting, which we'll start with first, how Alabama can generate open consistency with the three-point line. We're also going to look at driving with LeBaron Philon and Amari Allen. And then we're also going to look at Aiden Sherrill at the end and how he's become very much a staple of this offense. But let's start with some film for the three-point shooting. Alabama loves to use a lot of ghost screening, which I will show you here with Houston Millett. I feel like he's the best one at this. You see him come across the screen to start. Aiden's going to set a screen for Houston to give him some leeway here. And then you can see Kentucky's trying to kind of do a man-to-man. They're trying to keep up. Houston does his ghost screen, and then you're going to see Aiden Sherrill be a big body here. And with miscommunication, that leaves Houston open for a three. Alabama loves to do this type of offense where they generate a lot of open shooters. And also another thing, Alabama is very much – I have these all in random order, and then sorry for the screen recording thing. I messed up with that one. But this is just in random order with different three-point shots, but they're all kind of different. This one is how Alabama capitalizes well off of offensive rebounding with three-point shots. And then you're going to see with these next ones how they generate open, like where you get Aiden Holloway open. Aiden Holloway is the best three-point shooter on the team. He might be the best three-point shooter in the SEC. Statistically, that's where he is. We'll go over the statistics later. But you can see here ball movement, the fluidity of the offense, and then not Taylor Bowen and Noah Williamson running into each other. But the fluidity of the offense and like our sharp shooters on the side that are able to generate winning plays, and then another offensive rebound right here, and how we just keep running with the play. Like LeBaron here misses the layup, gets right back to the three-point line, and he notices that there's a hole there and is able to hit the corner three.
Mm-hmm.
But what have you been noticing with three-point shooting so far, Cole, this year? So far, like how we're able to get open, the inconsistencies of it. How are you seeing it?
Yeah. I think the three-point – I mean, obviously, the three-point shot is a staple of the Nate Oates offense. It has been since he's been here. This is no surprise that this is a very good three-point shooting team that takes a lot of them. Basically, every team he's ever had at Alabama has been that way. But I think what people don't appreciate quite enough is how good a lot of these guys are at moving without the ball to set themselves up to get good three-point shots. I think the fundamental misunderstanding is they think Alabama, you run fast, you jack up threes as soon as you get a chance. I don't think that's exactly what it is. They talk about it a lot. We always want to get 2 feet in the paint. A lot of times that'll collapse the defense and leave shooters open. And the shooters we do have are very good at finding the open space. You mentioned it on this LeBaron Philon play right here, even on not necessarily a broken play, obviously, but off of an offensive rebound, so not like a set play. LeBaron's able to find the open spot, hit a corner three. They just have such a good understanding of how the defense is going to collapse, especially when you have drivers like LeBaron and even Aiden Holloway has really improved that aspect of his game, Amari Allen as well. They're very good at driving and kicking, finding open spots to their shooters, and I think that's been on display all year this year. This offense, I think we all know how good we all know that it's very good. I think people would be surprised to hear that this is, per KenPom, this is to this point the best offense we've ever had at Alabama. So current adjusted offensive efficiency on KenPom is 129.2, which is the higher than any end of season rank that Alabama's had in history. Obviously, that could change as time goes on, but at this point, obviously, a very efficient offense led by Aiden and LeBaron.
Yeah, second in offense according to Ken Palm. I think Purdue is number one. You're eighth in tempo. You're fourth in points per game, 93.1 points per game. The last 2 seasons, Alabama finished number one in that category with 90.1 2 years ago, the team that made the Final Four. And then last year's Elite Eight team was 90.7. So we're on track to be higher than them. Now, more games will happen, so the numbers will kind of even themselves out. So we could potentially jump back to number one. 3-point attempts, you'd be surprised, guys. We're number one in the country, 36 3-point attempts a game. The good part, though, is we are second in 3-point makes in the country. Cornell is crazy good. They shoot 40% on 3-point attempts, and they shoot 35 attempts per game. Somehow they're 7-9. I don't know, but Cornell goes crazy. But 35% from three, 12.6 3-point makes is second in the country. 35%. I don't know where that sits, but it's certainly not a bad percentage when you're shooting that many threes. And yeah, it's just incredible. When you look at the 3-point numbers, I have the 3-point numbers put on my phone here, but Aiden Holloway this year is shooting 46% from three. In SEC play, he's shooting 51% in the last 5 games. Mari Allen has also stepped up in SEC play. He's shooting 42%. Aiden Sherrill shooting 33% in SEC play. And then overall, LeBaron is shooting 38%. Houston Millett shooting 35%. Amari Allen is shooting 37% overall. These are good numbers to have. There's a few players that we wish would be better. Like specifically, Latrell Wrightsell was such a sharpshooter 2 years ago for that Final Four team. He did miss some time that year. I think he missed the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight game. But he shot at like 47% from three, which was insane to see. And Mark Sears also was shooting at a high volume and shooting at higher percentage too. But this year, Latrell Wrightsell is shooting right now 27%. Yeah, 27% from three. He's only played in 2 SEC games, and he's shooting 25%. How important is it to get Latrell Wrightsell involved in this offense? Which he's had games where he's hit like 4 threes this year, but he's definitely someone that has kind of fallen off a little bit. I feel like he's going to be one of the X factors for this team moving forward. How do you feel about that, Cole?
100%. Yeah. Latrell, obviously, coming into the year was a guy we expected really the world from. He's been a solid contributor for Alabama for a long time now, and always been a fantastic 3-point shooter. I think so far it's fair to say he's kind of been below expectations. Obviously, injuries play a huge role in that. The big injury last year coming off of that. But getting him back and ready will be huge for this team. I think the biggest reason is because probably our 2 best shooters at this point are LeBaron Philon and Aiden Holloway by percentage, at least in terms of the ones that have taken enough to really matter. Those have been our 2 best shooters. They're also our 2 best drivers. So if we could get one more really consistent 3-point shooter on the outside while LeBaron and Aiden are able to kind of drive and dish, Latrell's going to get a lot of open threes based on that offense. So I think if he's able to get healthy first, obviously, and then be able to knock down some of those threes, I think that's going to be a big boon for this offense.
Yeah, you can even see here on this play right here. We'll move into our driving in section, but you see this play here with Aiden collapsing the defense, able to get the open man and LeBaron Philon there for the 3. But we'll go into the driving in portion like we talked about. One thing I've noticed this year watching Alabama games, LeBaron Philon, Aiden Holloway, and Amari Allen just have a special gift when it comes to driving the football. Driving the basketball. Even right here in the Oklahoma game, that's like a flagrant 1 foul, and Amari still takes advantage. Same thing here against Mississippi State. Amari Allen was great against Vanderbilt. He had 25 points, 10 rebounds. That was one of his 4 double-doubles this year. And LeBaron, in the clutch in these games this year, you look at Illinois, you look at St. John's game, the Clemson game, and then also the Oklahoma game. He really took over the games at the end of the game by his driving ability. And that's just one thing that sets him apart from a lot of these point guards in the country, why he's getting so much in an NBA draft love, is that he's so efficient going to the rim. Same thing with Holloway. Holloway, last year we looked at as, he was just another guy on the team, like a very good contributor. You had Mark Sears, you had Grant Nelson, and you had LeBaron, you had Clef, you had all these guys. And then Aiden Holloway was like, oh, we have this luxury of a guy who can make 40% from 3. And then this year we looked at him as is he going to be a guy that can step up and do something more than shoot the 3? He's very much stepped up. And he's been a very efficient player for us. Amari Allen too. He's playing like a one and done player. What is your thoughts on the paint control by these Alabama guards and forwards?
Yeah, I think it's an aspect of the offense that we haven't had, at least to this level, in the past. Like, we haven't had a lot of really quick guards that are able to get to the rim with ease. Javon Quinterly is kind of the first one that comes to mind. But on the whole, we've always had really good shooters. We've always had good passers to get those shooters the ball, but we haven't had nearly as many guys that we feel very good about putting their head down, getting to the rim. Sears could do that at times, but there were also times where he would get blocked easily. He wasn't. I didn't think he was the best driver ever, even though he was a good scorer at all levels. I didn't think that was the strength of his game. So having that with those three players in particular, like we mentioned already, it's pivotal not just to get layups, but it's also pivotal to collapse the defense and get more open 3-point shots. So I'm glad you mentioned Aden Holloway, because he's one I wanted to touch on in particular. He is just he to me is the most improved player on this team, and he was solid last year. As you mentioned, great 3-point shooter, but there wasn't much else that you would necessarily call a strength in his game. He's kind of small, so he's not a great defender. Wasn't really looking to pass as much. Wasn't great going to the goal, but he's improved all those aspects in his game this year. Much better going to the rim. Assist rate has improved. Turnover rate has gone down from last year. He's a better 3-point shooter than last year, even when that was by far the strength of his game. And as a result, he's top 40 he's number 39 in the country on KenPom in offensive rating in the entire country. So I think his improvement has been, to me, the biggest reason why this team has improved, as well as the other guy you mentioned, Amari Allen, has been significantly better than I think a lot of us expected based on his recruiting ranking. So adding those additional elements to this offense is really taking it to the next level.
Yeah, Amari Allen is very much another, not necessarily comparing him to Noah Clowney, but the impact is definitely there. Like, Noah Clowney came in, like, I think he was ranked in the 70s in recruiting, and then he comes in along with Brandon Miller and Jaden Bradley, and 3 great freshmen leads you to the number 1 overall seed. I don't think Alabama's getting the number 1 overall seed this year, but that doesn't mean everything is all terrible. Amari Allen is definitely, I feel like he's a one and done player. I would love to keep him another year, but he's rising in the draft stocks. They see great things. He's not a bad 3-point shooter at all. He's great at driving. He's very much a hustler on defense, and he gives a lot of effort. And I think so far this year, he has the most hard hat wins. It's either him or Aiden Sherrell, but I believe it's Amari Allen. But that just goes to show, like, the effort is always there. And like you said about Aden Holloway, the improvement is insane out of his game. I think that, like, LeBaron obviously has taken the next step of stardom, where he was probably projected to be picked in the 40s. And now he's probably looked at as one of the best point guards in the NBA draft circles. But Aden Holloway's emergence is also something that needs to be noted. And someone else's emergence is also to be noted, and that is Aiden Sherrell. He has stepped up as the 5-man. In the beginning of the year, we were kind of iffy about it. We kind of saw the problems against Purdue. We saw it against Gonzaga, Arizona. The truth be told is everyone's going to have problems against those 3 teams. But Aiden Sherrell has really stepped up the last 2 games. He scored 21 points versus Oklahoma, which was his second best because Mississippi State is his best, 22 points. But he was also very much, you talked about that kill shot Alabama had to start the second half earlier, I believe. And that was a big part of that was Aiden Sherrell. And he was so big in the second half, hitting his 3. That's like the big thing that separates him from a lot of the 5s that Nate has had, probably besides Jordan Bruner, is that he was an actual threat from shooting the ball at 3. Whereas, you know, Cliff and Bediako are both great defenders, great rim protectors. Aiden provides eliteness on the offensive end of the court. And I talked about this before we started the video, and you can touch on it briefly if you want to. But I think that if I were to do an all-time Nate Oates team, I think if I were to pick a 5-man, I might pick Aiden Sherrell, because he just provides so much on offense that Cliff was a great dunker. Cliff was probably the best dunker in the country last year. Bediako has the defense, but Aiden, he's top 10 in block rate. We'll talk about defense in the next episode. He's got the defense, and he has all the tools as a great offensive player. And I think he's probably the second most important player on this basketball team, probably besides LeBaron Philon.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't really thought about, but I think I'm not sure I'm not sure I'd call him second, maybe third, but I think him, Aiden, and Amari are all right there together, all incredibly important. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's a good argument to be made that he's the best 5-man we've ever had, especially in this system where we can use 5 men that can step out and shoot the three. I don't think that's necessarily the strength of Aiden's game, but he's definitely good enough at it to where you feel confident if he takes one. But as you've mentioned with Cliff and Bediako in the past, especially as fives, that basically locked one person into being in the dunker spot, is what we call it in the offense, but not being around the rim. With a 5-man that can step out and shoot it, you can get a little bit more creative with how you want to treat that. If you want to have a dunker spot, it doesn't have to be Sherelle. It can be somebody else. You can also have 5 out and actually have 5 legitimate threats on the wings to shoot the three. It opens up driving lanes for guys like LeBaron and Aiden. I think he's incredibly important, and I think the reason he's the most important, and this may be what we're trying not to say because we're trying to be positive, is that every time Aiden Sherrell's on the court, it means that some of our less efficient players are not on the court, being Noah Williamson and Keaton Bristow, who have been I would say by far the 2 biggest disappointments on this team in terms of their minutes have really struggled recently. I think that's been maybe the biggest issue with this offense, is that we have stretches when Williamson or when Bristow are in the game where we're just getting no impact from the 5 spot. And it's never necessarily been a spot that's been a huge offensive threat under Nate Oates. Obviously, the 2 guard and the lead guard have generally been the biggest point scorers, but there have been stretches for those 2 guys that have killed us at times, honestly. Bristow started out very well. His first 2 games, he had 17 points and 19 rebounds in 2 games. He looked like a really good player. He looked like he could be a rotational 5-man. Since then, he's had only 19 points and 21 rebounds in 8 games. So he's really struggled to make an impact, averaging just over 2 points a game, just over 2 rebounds. Over the last 4 games, he ended up with 4 points and 16 fouls. So it's just not getting anything from offense. And then you see the same thing with Noah Williamson. He had a 5-game stretch this year where he had 0 points, 4 rebounds, and 10 fouls over 5 games. And so when we're not able to get anything offensively from our backup bigs, it's been so important, the improvement of Sherelle, where we can play him 20, hopefully 25, maybe even 30 minutes, probably not because of foul trouble, but getting those consistent minutes from the 5 has been big because it gives us an element that we generally don't have in a Nate Oates offense, but it's also been big because he's a significantly more efficient player than a lot of the replacements we have for him.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep Aiden out of foul trouble. I think that was a big part in the beginning of the year. He didn't get to play a lot of minutes because of foul trouble. And then at the time, I guess you have the trust in Noah Williamson and Keaton Bristow that you want, that it's like, oh, they'll come in and they'll fill the gap. But the problem is now we know the gap is significantly large between Aiden and the backup big. So we're going to need a lot of out of Aiden Sherrell, unfortunately. I hate to say to put a lot of pressure on him, but he's really much come to the test. Like, he's been great. I think a good test, we're going to play Tennessee in this upcoming Saturday, and I think Florida's the ultimate test. It'll be 2 weeks from today, actually, playing on a Sunday. But that will be the ultimate test with Alex Condon, Thomas Hall, Land locked in, and then Chinyelu. So that's like the ultimate front court test in the country. If you want to test out your front court, go play Florida. But the offense, like I said, it's been the best part of the team. I think that's never not a thing in the Nate Oates era. I think the only time the defense was the best part of the team was probably when Herb was playing. But any last thoughts about the offense? Like, what needs to be done differently? Anything that can be improved on? I would mention Latrell Wrightsel's 3-point shooting, like we talked about earlier. But what would you say?
Yeah, the improvement of Latrell Wrightsel is a big one. I think the biggest thing that's going to help our offense is just staying healthy. I think it's been sometimes tough to establish a rhythm when you got 2 or 3 guys out of the lineup every single game. That's been really frustrating as a fan. Just having, and obviously it's something nobody can really control, but it's been hard to really establish a flow when you don't know who is or isn't going to play in every game. So I think that's a big deal with Wrightsel as well. I think if we can get him playing consistently, I think he'll get more in a rhythm and be back to the player we've seen in the past for Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Well, to join us tomorrow for Alabama's defensive film breakdown. I hope you like this Alabama offensive film breakdown. But until then, hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Hope Alabama can get a little more healthier on their bye week as they don't play until Saturday. And until then, like I said, hope everyone has a great rest of their week and roll Tide.
Roll Tide.